Good morning, people. Good morning, fellow humans. My name is Edward Bevilacqua. This is Department of Career Services on Sunday, November 19th, 2023. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's our daily podcast designed to help people. We'll start with that, to help people get from where you are to someplace better, from point A to point B, from Someday Isle, yes, rock and roll quotes, to Successlandia. Now, today is Sunday, so on the weekends, our podcast helping you get from here to there focuses on the spiritual component. This is a This is a four-part program that we do. It's about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. During the week, Monday through Friday, we mainly focus on mental, emotional, and physical, with always a support of the spiritual, because without that, there's no point. But the main focus is getting through the week every day, just a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Weekends are more time to reflect and focus on the spiritual, but not forgetting the other parts, but mainly the focus is on the spiritual. And okay, so for those people who are believers, whether you're Christians, you're Jews, you're Messianic Jews, get ready, fasten your seatbelts. Well, actually, what you should do is push the eject button. Brunk, I'm out of here. I'm not going to watch this one because you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy with today, because this podcast is not aimed at the believers. It's not aimed at successful people. This is for the people who are non-believers, who are not successful. And everybody has been exposed to Christianity. Nobody has the excuse. Nobody can say, I don't know anything about Jesus. What they can say is, it never appealed to me. I didn't care enough to learn more. Okay? Because we live in a Christian country. Like it or not, this is a Christian country. There's no excuse. There's no ability to say, I don't know. Nobody taught me. No, you just weren't interested. And there's good reasons for that. So this is the podcast for people who are not believers and who are not successful. All are welcome, of course. And believers and those who are successful are invited to just take your narrative and put it aside and listen to, just be open to other thoughts. Because when you know what other people think, it makes you stronger, not weaker. You don't need to go running in fear. No, my ears are offended. My God is offended. If anybody would think that I have the power to offend God, no. Okay, something is wrong there. I heard a pastor on Friday say, I hurt God. I hurt God by my attitude. I hurt God. It's like, okay, pal, get your ego in check. The God that created the universe, you're not going to be able to hurt him. Maybe disappoint, hurt, no. So again, for those people who are Christians, who are believers, you might want to exit, not watch, unless you can put your beliefs aside, boom, over here, and just say, I'm curious. I'm going to be non-judgmentally curious. Now, if you can't do that, just click out. Don't watch it, because you're not going to be happy. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Any serious... So I'm just winging it. This is just spitballing. No notes. Any serious conversation about God should be able to pass 3 tests. Clarke's fourth law, Occam's razor, and the categorical imperative. Clarke's fourth law says for every expert, there's an equal and opposite expert. And that's the problem in the world today when it comes to spirituality and religion, because for every expert, there's an equal and opposite expert. There's the Pope, there's the head of the Mormon Church, there's the Dalai Lama, there is, you name it. There's somebody who is an equal and opposite expert, and they all have different opinions. And so when you have a Clarke's fourth law problem, probably no one is actually correct, absolutely correct. All right. The goal is to avoid Clarke's fourth law problems. In other words, you don't need an expert. It becomes self-evident. 1 orange plus 1 orange equals 2 oranges. You don't need an expert to tell you that. It's self-evident. Okay, so it needs, as much as possible, the creation story, which we're going to talk about today, needs to be self-evident. You have to avoid Clarke's fourth law problems, because when you get to a Clarke's fourth law problem, you can pick anything, because nobody knows. Okay, so we have to avoid that. Number 2, Occam's razor, the law of parsimony. Simplestly stated, the simplest explanation is usually correct. So if you have a long, convoluted explanation of the creation story, it's probably not right compared to a simple explanation. And categorical imperative, simple explanation acts such that whatever you do is a law and everyone else has to do it. Then ask the question, would the world be a better place? Okay, that's the very simple things. They're way more complicated than that, but for our perspective. Okay, those 3 things. Okay. Now, Christians immediately have to bail out, because if you have the Bible as the source, the proof of the Bible is the Bible itself. In other words, the universe is 10,000 years, less than 10,000 years old, because that's what it says in the Bible, and what it says in the Bible is true. Okay, so now there we go. A simpler, better explanation is that when you have thousands and thousands of people spending hundreds or thousands of years seeking truth, and they conclude the universe is way older than any number you can reasonably calculate from the Bible. In other words, if you say, well, back in Noah's day or Adam's day, a day was 1,000,000 years. If you, and then you start saying, well, time has changed. A day was 1 billion years back then. It was 2 billion years. Again, Occam's razor problem, right? You have this very convoluted, kooky thing, versus time is time. And really, really smart people with high IQs have deduced that the universe is about 13.8 billion years old, and the Earth is, the solar system is whatever, less than that, and the Earth is about 5 billion years old, and life started about 3.5 billion years ago on Earth. And there were dinosaurs, and yes, there were extinctions, and yes, there was plate tectonics, and all of those things. Creation story has to go with what science says, because you have people who don't have a biased story. They're just seeking truth, and they're using a scientific method. And so any Bible story that contradicts what we understand today as science, boom, out. Okay. Again, for the people who are believers, you don't take it personally. You're just listening to another opinion. However, my hunch is for non-believers, they say, okay, I'm still with you. I'm still with you. I like an idea where there's a creation story that is supported by science, and with the belief that maybe perhaps one day we will understand. Okay, second premise. This is a little bit of a stretch. Is the universe the first mover argument? The universe was created by an intelligent being. Okay. Now, Occam's razor works the other way on this one, because if you say it just happened randomly, and it happened randomly with conditions that were conducive to life, the the odds against it are something like, I don't know, 10 to the 10th to the 125th power, some number that, according to Robert Spitzer, would be equivalent to a chimpanzee typing the collected works of Shakespeare, Byron, Milton, somebody else, all of those in one try on the first time. Okay, so it could have been randomly created, or it could have been created by an intelligent being. And here Occam's razor says, well, it's more likely that it was created by an intelligent being who wanted it to be favorable towards life. Why do we say that? Because we're here. Because we're here. And that this creator, who we'll call God, liked people and wanted them to be on the earth. Why? Because we're here. Okay, now, we have a universe that was made by an intelligent being that also made it conducive to human life, and here we are. Would it thus make sense then that this creator that had this universe that's 13.8 billion years old, and we're in it for less than a tiny fraction, 100 years maybe, out of 13.8 billion, wouldn't it make sense that this little speck didn't start and end in 100 years, that maybe perhaps something happened after death, maybe perhaps something happened before death, maybe this spirit had some life in this 13.8 billion years that we just don't know about. Maybe, I don't know, but Occam's razor would say it would make sense that if God created a universe that was favorable to man and put man in it, or put us in it, whatever us is, put us in it, that probably wouldn't wait 13.8 billion years relative to our time for us to show up. But it's only a blink in the eye of God's time. Okay, yeah, but still, for us, waiting 13.8 billion years is a long time, and then just having a flash of existence. No. Could an Occam's razor example would be, we existed before and we are going to exist after, because God did all of this because he loves us. And it would thus make sense that God perhaps would want to experience this existence through us. So he created us with a God with himself in all things. Not we are part of God. God is separate from us, but there's a piece of God in us, and he experiences the world through us. He experiences our unique existence through us. That's God's way to experience the human existence, is to be inside of us. Jump to gospel. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. I and the Father are one, and you and me are one. Whoever believes in us is one. Well, that could continue the argument, the Occam's razor argument. It's not hard to get. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so the creation story. God, the universe was created by an intelligent being, who we call God, who made it conducive to human life and wanted us to be in it. And the proof of that, well, the conclusion of that belief is we are in it. We are here because the universe was created by an intelligent being, and thus he wanted us here, or we wouldn't be here. Okay. Otherwise, another alternative would be, yes, the universe was created by an intelligent being, and we just are not significant, and we have no meaning. The purpose of the universe is something that we don't know. We just happen to be pond scum. Okay, well, we do too many wonderful things to be pond scum. So let's take that argument out. Say we're not pond scum. Okay, let's say it's more reasonable to think that if God created the universe, he wouldn't have pond scum. He wouldn't have us in it. It's just this kind of afterthought that had nothing, because after all, we're figuring out the universe. You know, us little humans in a short period of time are doing wonderful, wondrous things. All right, time is racing, so we got to move on. So God created the universe, and he put us in it. Why? Because he loves us. Why? Well, we don't know why. We don't know the mind of God. But it would be reasonable to think he might want to experience, see what it's like to be human, see what it's like to experience the reality of the universe through humans. And what would make God happy would be to do things that are good for other people. Segue, New Testament. Jesus said, here's what you need to do. Love the Father with all of your heart and soul. Number one, your Matthew, what is it, 22, 27 to whatever. Love God with all of your heart, love your neighbor as yourself, and then in John, love your neighbor as I have loved you. If we just look at the words, the message of Jesus, we don't take the Old Testament, we take the Old Testament, we've now put it over here. Our narrative, it's over here because it doesn't pass the Occam's razor, the categorical imperative, or the Clarke's fourth law problem. The idea that the universe was created by an intelligent being. Why? Why do we say that? Well, because it's not, as far as we know, something cannot come from nothing. So if there was no universe, it had to have a beginning. Something had to create it. There had to be something in order for the universe to become a thing. You can't have something created from nothing. Hawking's said, well, at one point said, well, gravitational waves could have created the universe. The problem with that is, where did the gravitational waves come from? Okay, so there's this first mover argument. You take it all the way back to something, and we can say it's an intelligent being, intelligence force, and with that we call God, that created the universe and put us in it. Now, we have an Occam's razor thing of, does it make sense that he would have nothing happen for 13 billion years and then put life in it that only lasts for an instant? Like, oh, damn, this light bulb, I'm trying to figure out the light bulb, but the filament keeps burning out. Or that doesn't make sense because it contradicts this omnipotent God, right? No, created this universe. A bunch of stuff was happening. We aren't aware of it. We are only aware of this existence right now. But we have reason to believe there's existence after we die. What's that? You say, near-death experiences. Near-death experiences. And now we have the tools to kind of measure these things and document and record these things and resuscitate people. And there's movies out now about this. And it seems like the best evidence of the reality of life after death is near-death experiences of people who were born blind, describing things that blind people can't describe during a period of time, that occurred during a period of time when they had no no neural activity, fixed dilation of the eyes, no gag reflex, just a sputtering of neurons in the lower brain, describing images, describing things that they don't have images of in their brain. That's the best evidence. Because how could a blind person, describe a train passing through the snow at a particular time when a person born blind really can't describe what it looks like, what snow looks like, what train tracks going through the snow look like, what an arrow on the back of a train looks like. Blind people born blind don't have those images in their brain. And when they have no neural activity, it's impossible to visualize something. So when they're resuscitated and they talk about this, then whatever. Okay, so the best evidence of of life after death is near-death experiences. And that would make sense that God created man. We don't know about this part of time. We're here now, but it would make sense that there's something after we die. Doesn't pass the Occam's razor test that God would create us put us in a universe that's 13.8 billion years old and just have us exist for an instant. And then it's over. There has to be something after that. And one evidence of that would be near-death experiences. Now, would it make sense that God would send somebody to help us get like, hey, guys, if you want to experience a better life over here, you should do things that are conducive to getting here. Again, we go to the Gospels, love. If you love people, you can be with me afterwards. You can experience a different existence after you die. And maybe if we talk about reincarnation, otherwise you keep coming back to here until you get the message it's love. And once you get the message it's all about love, then you can go to the next level. Would it make sense that God would send people to give that message? Yes. What are they called? Prophets. Would it make sense that if the prophets failed, now here we get into the Old Testament, prophet after prophet after prophet, failure after failure after failure, finally God decides, you know what, these people aren't getting the message. I'm going to send my son, me in a different form, part of the Trinity. I'm going to send my son, I'm using language that humans can understand. I'm going to send my son and give the message. If you believe what my son tells you, you're going to get over here. You're going to have everlasting life. You're going to stop repeating the cycle of keep coming back and letting the 7 deadly sins set in. You're going to get to enjoy bliss and happiness and whatever's next. You get to go to the next room, to the next level of the game. I'm going to send my son to give the message. And then if you just look at, you're a non-believer, you don't know anything about the Old Testament, you just focus on what was the message of Jesus. Really simple, love. And it's kind of like this other stuff doesn't matter. Being successful in the world, having stuff, power, ego, money, it doesn't matter. But I see we're at 22 minutes. We're way over time, so I'm going to end it right here. And more next weekend.